She was a powerful millionaire who thought nothing could touch her, until a barefoot boy stepped out of the shadows and whispered, "You will die tomorrow." She laughed, dismissing him as just another street kid. But less than 24 hours later, after a near-death experience and a shocking betrayal, she found herself desperately searching for the same boy she mocked, because his warning was the only thing that could save her life. What he revealed next will leave you speechless. The wind danced through the streets of Brookstone as twilight settled over the city, painting the skyline in hues of gold and amber. On the surface, everything looked calm, beautiful even. But fate was quietly shifting. Vivian Cole strode down the sidewalk, her Italian heels tapping out a brisk rhythm. Dressed in a tailored crimson pantsuit, her raven black hair swept into a sleek bun, she exuded an aura of power. At just 33, Vivian was already a tech mogul, the youngest woman on the global billionaires list. Known for her ruthless business instincts and a mind as sharp as her stilettos, she just left a shareholder meeting, her mind replaying projections, mergers, and expansion plans. In her hand, she scrolled through her phone, sending voice memos and barking instructions to her assistants. She didn't have time for distractions, not in her world. That's when she heard it. A small voice, thin but chilling, cut through the evening air like a blade. "You will die tomorrow." Vivian stopped mid-stride. Her head snapped up, eyebrows raised in irritation more than fear. Standing just a few feet away was a young boy, no older than 10. He was barefoot, dressed in a tattered gray hoodie and mismatched pants. His face was smudged with dirt, but his eyes were deep, alert, strangely knowing. "What did you just say?" Vivian asked, her voice cool and sharp like ice. The boy stepped forward slowly. "You will die tomorrow. Please, don't get in your car. Don't go to the old harbor." Vivian stared at him, blinking. Then she let out a small laugh, half amused, half annoyed. "Seriously, what is this? Some kind of prank? Who put you up to this? A rival company?" "TMZ." The boy didn't smile. "I dreamed it," he said, his voice trembling slightly. "Something bad will happen. I don't know why, but I see things when I sleep." Vivian's perfectly painted lips curled into a smirk. "Well, dream boy, I have places to be. So if you're trying to frighten me, it's not working." But deep inside, something flickered. A shadow of unease, quickly buried beneath a mountain of logic. The boy didn't say another word. He just stood there, watching her as she walked past, her heels clacking more loudly now. Back in her penthouse, Vivian tried to shake it off. She poured herself a glass of wine, gazing out at the city from her 47th floor view. The harbor sparkled in the distance, exactly where she was scheduled to meet with a group of potential international investors. The next morning, a high-risk deal with massive returns. But that boy's eyes haunted her. She told herself it was nonsense, a trick, maybe a street scam. Still, she double-checked the locks before bed. The next morning arrived under an overcast sky. Vivian dressed impeccably in a black blazer and pearl-white blouse, adding a hint of red lipstick, a power move for power meetings. She hesitated for a second at her front door, her thoughts flickering to the boy. "You will die tomorrow." Double quotes, ridiculous. Her security team was downstairs, as always. The armored black SUV gleamed beside the curb. She entered confidently and gave her driver the address of the old harbor meeting. 20 minutes into the ride, the first sign of trouble appeared. Traffic had cleared unusually fast. Streets that were typically jammed were now eerily quiet. Vivian looked out the tinted window. A police cruiser idled at the side of the road, the officer inside staring blankly at their vehicle as it passed. Then her phone buzzed. An alert from her cybersecurity team. Potential digital threat detected. GPS compromised 6 minutes ago. Abort mission if unverified. She frowned. What the hell? She muttered, calling her head of security. Before he could answer, a black van pulled suddenly in front of them, slamming on the brakes. Her driver swerved to avoid it, but too late. Another vehicle struck them from behind. The SUV skidded sideways and crashed into a construction barricade. Airbags deployed, glass shattered. Screams pierced the silence. Vivian's ears rang, her vision blurred. She could hear her driver groaning, then footsteps, men in ski masks. Guns drawn. They didn't want her money. They didn't even speak. They were there for one thing. Her Vivian ducked instinctively behind the seat as gunshots rang out. Her driver, though injured, managed to hit a hidden panic button on the dash. Within minutes, a security team arrived, heavily armed. A shootout ensued. Vivian huddled inside the SUV, heart pounding. Sweat drenched her back. This wasn't random. It was a hit. By the time it was over, 2 attackers were dead. 1 was captured. The police said it was a failed kidnapping orchestrated by foreign investors who'd wanted control of her technology firm. She sat in silence as paramedics checked her wounds. Nothing serious, but the trauma ran deeper. Her eyes stared blankly at the road where moments ago she'd nearly lost everything. And then her mind raced back to the boy. The warning, "Don't go to the harbor. Don't get in the car." He'd seen this. Somehow he'd known. Vivian canceled every remaining meeting. She locked herself in her penthouse, pacing in circles. She didn't believe in magic. She didn't believe in prophets, but she did believe in survival. She picked up her phone and called her assistant. "Find that boy. Search every block near 9th and Main. I don't care what it takes. Bring him to me. Tonight." For the first time in years, the billionaire who had everything was afraid. And the only one who could save her now was a boy with no shoes, no home, and a secret she didn't understand. Vivian Cole's penthouse no longer felt like a fortress. The marble floors echoed with anxiety, not authority. Her glass walls, once a symbol of transparency and power, now made her feel exposed, vulnerable, hunted. She hadn't slept. She couldn't. The attempted ambush at the harbor replayed in her mind like a broken film reel. The look in those men's eyes, the certainty in their movements. They hadn't come to rob her. They came to erase her, and the boy knew. Somehow. Impossibly. He'd known. It was nearly dawn when her assistant returned, breathless and soaked in sweat. "I found him," she gasped. He was hiding behind an old food cart 2 blocks from the river. "Wouldn't come with me until I promised he wouldn't be hurt." Vivian sprang to her feet. "Bring him in," she ordered. "Now." The door opened slowly, and the boy stepped inside. Same torn hoodie, same bare feet, but something in his eyes had shifted. Less fear, more knowing, more pain. Vivian lowered herself to his level. Gone was the steel in her voice. It was replaced by something softer, rare in her world. "Thank you for saving my life." The boy didn't respond. "My name is Vivian. What's yours?" He hesitated. "Imari." "How did you know?" she whispered. "How did you see it?" Imari's shoulders tensed. He looked away, as if the truth lived somewhere behind the grand piano or beneath the priceless rug. "I dream things," he said at last. "At night, they come like flashes, loud, sometimes too loud. But always true." Vivian frowned. "What kind of things?" Imari rubbed his arms as if remembering a chill that never left. "I saw my uncle fall before it happened. I saw a woman at the bus stop get hit by a van the next morning. I tried to warn her too. She didn't listen." His voice cracked. "No one does." Until now, Vivian's throat tightened. For a long moment, she said nothing. She, the woman who once dined with presidents and dismissed threats like bad weather, now hung on every word from a child in rags. "Do you see anything else?" "About me?" He blinked, suddenly nervous. "You have more enemies than you think. Some in suits. Some in your own house." Vivian's blood chilled. What do you mean? Imari sat on the edge of a chair, legs swinging. Someone close to you wants your seat, wants what you've built. They sent those men. Vivian's chest heaved. Betrayal? From her circle? Her own empire? No, impossible. But the boy had been right once. Two right dots. She stood and walked to the window. The city pulsed beneath her. Powerful, brutal, full of secrets. She had fought too hard to rise above it. Too many nights sleeping under a desk. Too many deals sealed with blood, sweat, and sleepless ambition. But now, a barefoot boy from the gutter had seen what all her security teams couldn't. She turned back to him. Where are your parents? His jaw stiffened. Dead. My mama. She died 2 winters ago. Asthma. We didn't have money for her medicine. She couldn't breathe one night, and his voice fell apart. She was all I had. Vivian knelt again and gently placed her hand over his. You're not alone now. He looked at her, unsure whether to believe her. His whole life had been filled with broken promises from broken people. She added, Stay here. At least for tonight. Please, you'll be safe. I don't like glass walls, he muttered. People can see in, Vivian blinked. The boy was right again. Even her fortress had cracks. That night, she didn't sleep. Imari slept curled on a velvet chaise under a thick blanket, his tiny frame finally at rest. Vivian sat nearby, her laptop glowing in the dark. She started digging. Emails, reports, meeting notes, financial leaks. Her gut was telling her the betrayal Imari saw was real, and just past midnight, she found it. A transfer. $200,000 wired to a private account by her chief operating officer. Attached to the note was a code name that matched. One of the gang members caught at the harbor ambush. Her heart stopped. It was true. Derek, she whispered, stunned. Her right hand. Her most trusted executive. The man she'd pulled out of poverty and into the boardroom. The man who stood behind her in every photograph. Had he really tried to have her killed? A new alert appeared on her screen. Unauthorized access attempt. On your personal email. IP trace to. Inside your company. Her phone buzzed again, this time a message from Derek himself. You've had a good run, Vivian, but it's over. You were warned. Her hands trembled. She turned to Imari, still. Asleep. Peaceful. He had warned her. Not just once, but twice now. She stood, heart racing, and activated every layer of security in her home. Then she whispered to herself, I believe you now, Imari, and I will protect you like you protected me. For the first time in her life, Vivian Cole realized that all the wealth in the world couldn't shield her from fate. But maybe, just maybe, this boy could. Asterisk. The morning sunlight tried to break through the storm of fear, swirling around Vivian Cole's penthouse. But light could not pierce betrayal. Vivian stood barefoot on her balcony, the wind catching the silk robe that clung to her frame. Her eyes, once razor-sharp and calculating, now burned with something else. Fury. Inside, Imari was still asleep. A small boy on a leather couch in a billionaire's fortress. But his presence had become something far greater than coincidence. He was no longer just a warning. He was the reason she was still alive. And now, he was the only person she could trust. Her phone buzzed. Private security line. Miss Cole, we've confirmed the transaction. Derek's account was accessed from your corporate network. And it gets worse. We found recent floor schematics downloaded for your private elevator. He's been planning this for weeks. Vivian's jaw clenched. Derek Hadley, her trusted coup, had been at her side for 9 years. She made him. And now he wanted to bury her. She tapped her earpiece. I want him exposed, publicly, arrested. But not before he knows I saw him coming. But ma'am, no, I'm not hiding anymore. She ended the call. She walked back into the living room, where Imari was now sitting upright. Cradling a steaming mug of cocoa, his small eyes lifted. Toward her, calm but guarded. "You had another dream, didn't you?" she asked. He nodded slowly. "They're coming, tonight." "Who?" "I don't know their names. But one's dressed like one of your guards. He has a key." Vivian's breath hitched. Inside man. Her own private security. She trusted them. With her life. But she'd already made that mistake once this week. Imari looked out the window. "If you stay here, you'll die." She leaned in. "Then what do I do?" He stood and walked over to her, barefoot still, but more sure-footed than any adult she'd met. "You need to trick them. Set a trap. Make them think they've already won." Vivian knelt to his level. "You're smarter than any CEO I know." He blushed, then turned serious. "I don't want to run anymore." "You won't," she promised. By mid-afternoon, Vivian was a ghost. Her penthouse, emptied. Her luxury cars, untouched. She'd relocated to a safe house outside the city, a property she purchased under a false name years ago in case of a scandal. No one knew it existed. Not even Derek. Imari stayed close by her side, never asking for anything, just watching, always watching. There, in that plain house with its cracked tile floors and flickering lights, Vivian laid her trap. She sent out a controlled message, a leak, implying that she'd be returning to her penthouse that night to retrieve her confidential files. Her security team knew it was bait. So did Imari, but that's what made it perfect. The sharks would swim toward blood, and this time, she'd be waiting. The night came fast, cloaked in rain and thunder. Inside her penthouse, 3 hidden cameras live-streamed everything to Vivian's remote laptop. She and Imari sat silently in the dark safe house, staring at the screen, their faces lit only by its soft blue glow. Then movement. An elevator opened. A man in uniform stepped out, one of her men. Or so she thought. Vivian whispered, "He's not on shift tonight." Imari pointed. "That's him. The dream man. He goes to the study." The man moved with cold precision, disabling alarm triggers and entering her private study. From his belt, he pulled a long black case, lockpicks. A small light blinked from his collar. A tiny camera. He's streaming to someone. Moments later, another man followed. No uniform. Just dark clothes, gloves, and a crowbar. Vivian leaned closer to the screen. Her heart thundered. That one. He's not in any database. No fingerprint. Match, he's off-grid. "He's the one who was supposed to kill you," Imari said calmly. Then, the lights inside the penthouse shut off. Blackout. Imari turned to Vivian. "They think you're there." On the live stream, muffled voices. "Check the bedroom. Grab the drive." The orders were clear. Leave nothing. The camera feed cut. Vivian stood. Go time. Her call connected directly to the offsite security team. Move in. Capture. No kills. Within 7 minutes, it was over. 2 men were taken alive. A third, the one with the crowbar, tried to leap from the balcony. He didn't make it. Later that night, Vivian sat at the dining table of her safe house. Her hands trembled slightly as she poured tea for herself and Imari. She'd never shaken in front of anyone before, but this wasn't fear. It was release. "You were right," she said. Niori sipped slowly. "I know." Vivian smiled faintly. "What else do you see?" He looked up at her, hesitant. "Sometimes I see sadness, not death, but something like a broken heart. A loneliness. Mine," he nodded. "You're surrounded by people, but you're always alone." The words hit her harder than she expected. No assistant, no executive, no party guest had ever seen her that clearly. Not like this child. She looked around the sparse room. No luxury, no glass walls, no champagne. But for the first time she felt safe. "Do you miss your mother?" she asked. "Every day." "Would you?" She paused, unsure of her own voice. "Would you stay? Here, with me?" Amari's eyes widened. You mean like live here? Not just here with me. Wherever I go, you'd have a room, a bed, school, a future. He was quiet for a long moment. But I'm just me. Vivian leaned in. You're the boy who saved my life. That's more than enough. The walls didn't gleam. The air didn't smell like money. But in that moment, something richer was exchanged. Trust, purpose, connection. I'd like that, Amari said softly. Outside. The rain eased. Inside. Two people, one billionaire with a broken past and one orphan with visions of the future. Began something neither of them could have predicted, and for once, fate was on their side. The sun finally broke through the storm clouds. It cast warm light over the small garden behind Vivian Cole's hidden safe house, where a boy who once slept on concrete now knelt in the grass, planting something real, strawberries, or at least trying to. Vivian watched from the doorway, coffee in hand, heart softened in a way she hadn't known since childhood. Her empire had nearly crumbled. Her coup had tried to end her. She had been one decision away from death. And all of it, had changed because of a boy with dirt on his face and prophecy in his dreams. Those go in deeper, she said gently, walking over. I'm trying, Amari grinned. Hands caked in soil. I've never planted anything before. Vivian knelt beside him. Neither have I. He looked up at her, head tilted. You've got everything. Houses, cars, planes. You never planted anything? She shook her head. No, I've only ever built things meant to make money. Never anything that could grow without it. There was a pause, not sad but full of meaning. Growth had taken on a new definition now. That afternoon, news exploded across every network. Tech mogul Vivian Cole's coup arrested in attempted murder plot. Orphan's tip helps prevent assassination attempt on billionaire CEO. Boy's mysterious warning saves life. Is it a miracle or a curse? Vivian ignored it all. For once, she didn't care what the world said. She knew the truth, and more importantly, he did. Amari was now under full protection. Lawyers were working to get him guardianship status under Vivian's name. The media buzzed, speculating why a woman who once ruled boardrooms with an iron fist now shared her home with a street orphan. But no one knew what had really happened on that sidewalk. 3 days ago, when she laughed in the face of fate, and fate, through the mouth of a child, warned her anyway. A week later, Vivian returned to her penthouse. She didn't come alone. Amari walked beside her, his new sneakers squeaking on the marble. His hoodie had been replaced with a clean button-up and a too big blazer Vivian had insisted on. Her idea of honoring him like the hero he was. As the elevator climbed toward the 47th floor, she looked down at him. Nervous? He nodded. Kinda. I am too. The doors slid open. Security agents flanked the hallways. She stepped into the space that once made her feel invincible. Now it felt different. Alive. She walked over to the desk in her home office and placed a new object at the center. A framed photograph. One she took the day after the ambush, of Amari sitting with a bowl of cereal, legs swinging under the chair, smiling without knowing. It's a reminder, she told him, of the day everything changed. He smiled quietly, but his face grew serious. I had another dream last night. Vivian straightened. Her guard still reflexively went up when he said those words. About what? He looked down. Not about danger. Not this time. I saw you. Older, laughing. You were happy. And I was still there. Like family. Her chest rose slowly. That word, family, had never belonged to her. Not since her parents died when she was 19. She'd buried grief in contracts and compensation packages. Until now. Do you want that, Amari? For real? He looked at her without hesitation. Yes, her voice cracked as she spoke, something she never allowed in business. Meetings or boardrooms. Then let's make it real. Months passed. Vivian's company didn't fall. It thrived, but the headlines slowly shifted. Not about the betrayal or the scandal, but about the new foundation she started in Amari's name, the Tomorrow Project, created to support homeless children with untapped potential and unspoken stories. Every month, Amari chose which shelters to support, which programs to fund. He was the compass now, not of business, but of meaning. One evening, they stood together in front of a crowd at a gala, Vivian in a sleek navy gown, Amari in a custom suit that actually fit this time. She placed a hand on his shoulder. "Want to say a few words?" He swallowed hard, then walked to the microphone. Cameras clicked. Phones recorded, but Amari didn't speak like a celebrity. He spoke like someone who still remembered the cold. "My name is Amari," he began, voice soft but clear. "A few months ago, no one saw me. Not really. I lived in shadows, slept on benches. I had dreams, not the kind you chase, but the kind that scare you." He paused, eyes scanning the room. "But then I met her," he said, pointing to Vivian, who blinked back tears she didn't know were coming. "And she listened, not because I was rich, not because I was powerful, but because sometimes the person who saves you isn't the one in the suit. It's the one you least expect." The audience stood, applauded. Vivian didn't move. She just smiled, because in that moment, the empire she built finally felt like it had a soul. Later that night, as Amari brushed his teeth in the hallway of the home they now shared, Vivian sat at the edge of his bed. He walked in yawning, so tired. "Then sleep, you earned it. Future world changer." He grinned and crawled into bed. "Hey," she said gently, brushing a hand across his forehead. "Do you still see dreams?" "Sometimes. Did you see tomorrow?" He blinked once, then smiled. "I saw peace." Vivian turned off the light. Outside, the city still roared, still schemed, still spun with chaos. But inside that room, with the woman who had everything and the boy who once had nothing, tomorrow had already arrived, and it looked a lot like love. The end.